Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Lech Lecha. We're going to look at a couple of sequences in the stories of Lech Lecha in the Psukim, and we're going to learn some lessons why the Torah chose to go in ways and sequences that we might not have expected. So the first one is in Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Yud Gimel. So Avraham and Sarai and Lot are going down to Egypt, and this is when Avram realizes that Sarah is beautiful. Externally, he knew internally she was beautiful, but because he was concerned about how the Egyptians would react and potentially would kill him, then he told her to say that you're my sister. And he says in the pasuk that Imrina Chosiat, tell them that you're my sister, which is true because he is a relative. So they'll do good for me because of you, and they will let me live because of you. And Rashi says that they'll do good for me, meaning that they'll give me a lot of money. Now, isn't this strange? Wouldn't you think the sequence, what's more important? To say that because of this they'll save my life, and then also they'll give me money. Instead, he says, they'll do good for me, give me money, and then he mentions saving my life. What can we learn from this? So I heard something at Mincha this week down at the Wolfson Minyan, and he says that it teaches us the lesson about the importance that Avram put in Hakaras HaTov and Kiddush Hashem. And that was even more important than his own life. What Kiddush Hashem are we talking about? What Hakaras HaTov? We're talking about on the way to Egypt, Avram had no money, but he stayed by different inns, by different people, and they were saying, well, if you're so good and beloved by your God, why don't you have money? So now when he returned, now that he has money, because he in fact was given great wealth from Pharaoh, he teaches us also the lesson of Derech Eretz, that remember the people that took care of you on the way up, that don't... Just because you're wealthier now, don't go to the fancy hotels, go to the hotels that took care of you when you didn't have money. But he went back to these places to let them know that, look, God did provide me. It's a matter, it doesn't happen overnight, but God did take care. By believing God, I became wealthy. And also I'm showing that Hakaras HaTov by going back to you because you were able to treat me well even when I didn't have money. So that's the first lesson to learn. Then it says at the beginning of the Parsha, it says, Lech Lecha me'artzecha, mimoladcha, beis avicha, el haaretz asher areka. So first it says, go from your state or your city, then away from your father's home or state, depending how you want to interpret, and then finally leave from your father's house. Now, normally what you do is you leave the father's house, then you leave your city or state, and then you leave your state or your country. What can we learn here? So in sefer Ohr Yahel, is brought down by Lech Lecha on the Parsha, says we can learn from here regarding when someone wants to grow and hit a new level and progress, that you have to do it in different stages. Firstly, the best thing to do is get rid of the bad, and then you progress to the good. That clears the way like a fresh piece of paper. When you write on it, it's much better when you've already gotten rid of the bad stuff. And that's what we see in the pasuk, because you learn from your community where you are, and the influence is greatest from your family, less so from your town, and less so from your state, but there's still influences. So which ones are easiest to get rid of negative influences? So the easiest one to get rid of, so start with that. That's leave from me'artzcha, your land, your state. And then get rid of the habits that you picked up from your mimoladcha, your hometown. And finally, if appropriate, get rid of the negatives that you learned from your family. For example, Avram's father was a Oved Avodah Zarah. He served idol worship. So first you're sur me'ra, first you get rid of the bad, then you're asay tov. And that's why after you do these stages, then it's el haaretz asher areka. This will allow you to get to that place where you're trying to get to, that peak goal, to be in the righteous spot. And that's really an important lesson, and that's the difference between how Avram acted and Lot acted. Avram left all his family, and he left, of course, his state and his country. But in reality, for Lot, he didn't really leave his past behind him. He temporarily he did leave his family, and just like Avraham did, but that was only temporary, and therefore he ended up being with Sodom, and he ended up sinning. So we do see a reminder for Sumei Rav Esei Tov and Kriyas Shema Lo Tesurach Levavchem Acharei Nechem. First, get rid of the bad stuff, and then Vasisem Asam, and then you will do the good. Of course, you can do good even when you haven't fully gotten rid of everything. You can just remember that with one hand you get rid of the bad, and the other hand you'll take care of the good. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week and wonderful Shabbos.